Watching different video feeds of the attempt to storm the Capitol building on Wednesday, part of me was reacting as an American would react when you see one of the most important American institutions being desecrated like that. And then the other reaction for me as an expert on, extremism and political violence and that sort of thing, was more analytical. I was looking, at people's basic dress. How many people there were dressed in normal civilian clothes versus how many people were dressed in military-style gear or had brought things that indicated they were there for a fight. At least one person brought a shield with them, indicating that they were willing to engage in street fighting. 2 people seemed to have brought zip ties, which suggests they were interested in possibly abducting people. I was looking at the flags that people were flying or the banners. Some of these were totally innocuous. A bunch of people brought state flags. It's hard to know exact proportions, but let's say half of them were what you could call pro-Trump extremists, people who really bought into the personality cult of Donald Trump and believed any conspiracy theories that he or his supporters wanted to promote. And then there were also a mix of a wide variety of people from fringe and extremist movements and groups, including anti-government extremists, QAnon believers.
Takeaway for me is the degree to which your bread and butter GOP supporter who fills out rallies seem to be intermingling with extreme far-right factions, people who believe there is no political solution at all.
I also saw symbology associated with the militia movement. I saw the 3% symbol. I saw the Oath Keepers logo. That was what was helping me understand the nature of the different people who would come there.
The very onset of Trump's political career, when he first announced his run, we saw these very soft barriers between the white supremacists that overtly supported Trump and the mainstream GOP. What it looked like to me is a moment where those soft barriers have been eroded to such a degree that they no longer exist anymore.
If you don't get the right answer today, you come back with your rifles.
The Don't Tread on Me flag is also known as the Gadsden flag. And this is a traditional historical patriotic flag that originated during the Revolutionary era and has been used ever since in the United States, often as a symbol against tyranny. Notice the Don't Tread on Me, it's basically rising up against some sort of tyrannical authority. People on the right, historically, they tend to try to appropriate imagery from the American Revolution to show that they are patriotic. And so, for example, 10 years ago, the Tea Party unofficially adopted the Don't Tread on Me Gadsden flag, and it became extremely common for Tea Party supporters to fly that flag. Of course, the Tea Party faded away, but most of those people went in and became Trump supporters. And so it's not surprising that you would find Trump supporters flying that flag too.
I'm here to stop the steal.
The Confederate flag, which has most resonance as a symbol of racism, it's pretty common for people on the right to have the Confederate flag, trying to use it as a good old boys flag or as a resistance against political correctness, or by people who are, racist. The green flag is a Kekistan flag. Kekistan flag is a joke country created by members of the online forum 4chan.
Which is what you can see here. This is the symbol of 4chan. These little 4 clovers.
Kekistan is a country for a joke god that they created, Kek. First they created Kek the god, then Kek the country, and then of course if there was Kek the country, they hadn't created a joke flag for the joke country. So it's basically associated with people from the 4chan subculture. The 3% flag in that image combines the 3% logo with the Betsy Ross flag, which is a traditional historical flag. They argue, incorrectly, but they argue that only 3% of American colonists took up arms to fight the British during the American Revolution, but they won liberty for everybody. And that 3%ers are the modern American equivalent of those 3% of colonists. Only this time they're not fighting British tyranny, but American tyranny. I saw quite a bit of QAnon imagery as well as different slogans associated with QAnon. QAnon is essentially this huge conspiracy-focused movement centered around sort of a worship of Donald Trump.
Ashley Babbitt, who has become a martyr figure among far-right extremists already, allegedly trafficked in the QAnon conspiracy theory. We saw a poll, I believe, in the run-up to the 2020 election that showed roughly half of Trump's voters believe some elements of the QAnon conspiracy theory.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
And when you have people presenting information that is not accurate, but that is meant to sensationalize, to sort of draw out these very strong emotions in people, you tell them repeatedly that you're in the middle of a situation where there is no political solution and that we are in the middle of a civil war, they're going to believe it over time.
You know, what we've already seen now, just a lot of people trying to excuse why they were there, to rationalize why they were there.
Did he tell us to be here?
He encouraged us to be here, to support our country.
Exactly.
To acknowledge that they were there, but say they did not support the violence that occurred there.
Out there making our voices heard, and then they start throwing tear gas.
I mean, I think it's a real failing of social media to understand what exactly they have been creating.
Let's tell Trump what's up.
When you isolate people on these fringe platforms like DLive and Parler, the temperature of the rhetoric goes up.
Woo! Hell yeah! Let's go. Dude, we're in the Capitol right now.
You know, I think it's important to realize that there's essentially developing a new form of extremism, a sort of a nascent extremist movement of pro-Trump extremists who basically have adopted a cult of personality around Trump. But at this point, one can't just simply say there are mainstream Trump supporters and then there are these extremists, militia, white supremacists, or whatever, because some of those Trump supporters are no longer mainstream. They have become an extreme movement of themselves.